Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, your one-stop destination for in-depth analysis of security challenges, regional conflicts, and the evolving threat of terrorism. Let's take a look at the headlines first. Violence surges in Balochistan after coordinated attacks, Pakistan's claims questioned. Indian security forces neutralized 3 Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists in twin Jammu and Kashmir encounters. And Pakistan marks Kashmir Solidarity Day amid rights allegations in POJK and Gilgit-Baltistan. Balochistan has witnessed one of its deadliest escalations in recent years after coordinated attacks claimed by the Balochistan Liberation Army struck security installations across multiple districts. While Pakistan claims operational success, Baloch activists reject the narrative, saying the violence reflects a deepening political conflict driven by repression, enforced disappearances, and systematic exploitation of the resource-rich province. Over the recent days, violence surged across Balochistan as Baloch insurgents struck police posts, banks, transport networks, and security installations in Quetta, Gwadar, Mastung, and Noshki. The Balochistan Liberation Army says the coordinated offensive Operation Herof 2.0 was carried out across several districts, claiming heavy casualties among Pakistani forces and the capture of personnel. Islamabad has rejected those claims, acknowledging significant but far lower losses. Emergency protocols were activated at hospitals as army, police, and counter-terrorism units launched sweeping clearance operations across urban and semi-rural areas.
For so far, 145 dead bodies जो हैं वो हमारे पास हैं. We managed to kill 145 terrorists in 40 hours. This is the highest number since Pakistan is facing this war on terror. कि इतने कम अरसे में इतने दहशतगर्द जो हैं वो मारे गए हैं. हमारे 17 लॉ एनफोर्समेंट के जो लोग थे जिसमें पुलिस और एफसी शामिल हैं और एक हमारे जो नेवी का एहलकार ये इन लोगों की शहादतें हुई हैं और सिविलियन हमारी जो कैजुअल्टीज हैं वो 31 हैं और इसमें कुछ लोग जख्मी भी हैं.
Baloch activists say such statements mask the reality on the ground. They argue that Pakistan's focus on body counts and counter-terrorism rhetoric ignores the political root of the conflict and is followed by collective punishment of civilians. Hakeem Baloch of the Baloch National Movement says Pakistani forces routinely target ordinary Baloch people after major attacks, using enforced disappearances to project control.
बलूचिस्तान की जो जंग है, जिसकी जो शिद्दत है, उसे ना पाकिस्तान रोक सक रही है, ना ही पाकिस्तान के पास कोई इंटेलिजेंस इंफॉर्मेशन होती है प्रायर टू जब बलूच सरमचार आते हैं, हमला करते हैं और अपने जो है मकसद में कामयाब होकर जब निकल जाते हैं और उसके बाद फिर हम देखते हैं कि पाकिस्तानी स्टेट जो है वो कॉमन जो बलूच है, जो सिविलियन है, जो गैर मुसल्ला है, जो निहत्ता है, उन्हें उठाकर लापता करता है. उसमें फिर बलूच एक्टिविस्ट होते हैं, पॉलिटिकल भी होते हैं, ह्यूमन राइट्स भी होते हैं, या बलूच जो लीडरशिप हैं या बलूच एक्टिविस्ट हैं उनके फैमिली मेम्बर्स को कलेक्टिव पनिशमेंट के तौर पर अबडक्ट करते हैं.
Balochistan, annexed by Pakistan in 1948, has witnessed repeated rebellions over demands for autonomy and control over local resources. Despite holding vast reserves of gas, coal, copper, gold, and oil, the province remains Pakistan's poorest. Baloch leaders say revenue from these resources flows into Islamabad, while the region is subjected to militarization instead of development. The latest violence came just days after Pakistan hosted a mineral summit aimed at attracting Chinese investment. China has already poured billions into Balochistan, including Gwadar Port, a critical node of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Activists accuse Islamabad of marketing Balochistan's minerals abroad while suppressing dissent at home.
ये एक हकीकत है जो पाकिस्तानी रियासत की बरबरियत को ज़ाहिर करता है और इसीलिए बलोच जो है उसके ख़िलाफ़ एक जो बलोच आर्म्ड ग्रुप्स हैं वो कहते हैं कि वो उसके ख़िलाफ़ एक बहुत ही ज़ालिम जंग लड़ रहे हैं। वो जानते हैं कि वो इस जंग में उनका भी नुकसान है, उनके साथियों की शहादतें हैं, उन्हें जो है ऑब्वियसली अपनी ज़िंदगियाँ कुर्बान करनी पड़ेंगी बट क्योंकि उन्हें पता है कि पाकिस्तानी रियासत ना तो पॉलिटिकल बात को समझती है, ना वो जो है डिस्कशन को समझते हैं, ना वो जो है एक सोशल पॉलिटिकल इशू है उसे पॉलिटिकली हल करना चाहते हैं, तो इसलिए बलोचों के पास और कोई राय नहीं है सिवाय जो है मुज़ाहमत के।
Earlier this year, Baloch separatists attempted to hijack the Jafar Express, underscoring the growing scale of the insurgency. According to the Pakistan Institute for Peace Studies, Balochistan recorded a sharp rise in attacks last year, resulting in hundreds of deaths. For many Baloch, the latest violence is not an aberration, but the consequence of decades of marginalization, militarization, and unresolved political demands. Pakistan is being accused of recalibrating its proxy war in Jammu and Kashmir, shifting terror blame onto local Kashmiris to mask its continued sponsorship of terrorism. Analysts say the change follows India's counter-terror crackdown under Operation Sindoor, which disrupted traditional infiltration routes and forced Pakistan-backed networks to rely on sleeper cells, digital radicalization, and narco-terror financing to preserve global deniability.
For decades, Pakistan has sought to project terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir as an indigenous phenomenon. However, evolving patterns of recruitment, financing, and command structures indicate a calculated strategy, using local proxies to execute terrorist activity while operational control remains across the border. Junaid Qureshi, director of the European Foundation for South Asian Studies, says Islamabad has consistently attempted to destabilize Kashmir by shifting responsibility for terrorism onto local Kashmiris. Citing incidents such as the Red Fort blast in Delhi, he says the objective is to conceal Pakistan's role as a state sponsor of terrorism while portraying attacks as homegrown. Qureshi warns that this proxy framework is being refined to withstand international scrutiny, relying on fragmented groups, narco-financing and exploitation of vulnerable populations to sustain terrorism while maintaining plausible deniability at international forums.
There is a narrative being created because Pakistan has been exposed many times on the international platform within the region that Pakistan is a sponsor of terrorism. And now what they are trying to do is they are trying to, with the help of their proxies, Pakistani proxies, they are trying to involve local Kashmiris into this, into terrorism, so that they have this plausible deniability that it is the Kashmiris who are doing this, it's not us. But we all know where the money comes from, where the training comes from. Of course, it is now much more digitalized. But at the same sense, you know, what also must be looked into is the drug issue in Kashmir. Look, I've always said drug, apart from being a menace in society, but drug in this particular region, in a conflict zone, has also another usage.
With armed infiltration increasingly constrained, terror networks are now relying on decentralized cells operating quietly within civilian spaces. Radicalization, funding and operational instructions are increasingly digital, while narcotics trafficking has emerged as a parallel currency to sustain militant activity. This convergence of crime and terrorism has altered the threat landscape, making violence harder to detect and easier to disown.
There are countries where weapons are used, there are countries where oil is used as a currency. Drug in this particular region is used, it's you know, you can call it narco-terrorism. Drug is used as a currency in pursuing terrorism in this region. And if you see, it is only happening in two states in India. One is Punjab, one is Kashmir, both with a history of terrorism, both with a history of support from the Pakistani intelligence agencies, their famous project K2, Khalistan and Kashmir. So they are finding new ways. Cryptocurrency is a new way. So they are finding new ways to disturb the peace.
Another key component of the strategy is organizational reinvention. Banned terror outfits routinely resurface under the new identities, retaining the same ideological foundations and logistical networks to continue operations while evading sanctions and international scrutiny. The Resistance Front is widely seen as part of this pattern and has been linked to Lashkar-e-Taiba. Junaid Qureshi says he has received direct death threats from the group but maintains that such intimidation will not deter him. He warns that rebranded outfits now increasingly rely on digitally trained sleeper cells, posing a more complex challenge than traditional cross-border infiltration.
I think all these organizations have been banned for a long time, but they keep on reinventing themselves. I remember very, very long ago, Lashkar was banned, then it was the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. Jaish is banned, then it finds its offshoot. Today, just the threat we were talking about, which I've received, is from TRF. Well, TRF is a very, very new organization. I think this was established somewhere around 2019, the Resistance Front. Yes, it's an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Taiba, which has been confirmed. The US State Department has put them on a sanction list. India has put them on a sanction list. So the relationship between them and Lashkar has been established. But then they reinvent themselves.
Analysts say Operation Sindoor forced Pakistan-backed networks to abandon overt escalation in favor of covert, urban-centric tactics. While the methods have shifted, the objective remains unchanged: destabilize Jammu and Kashmir while projecting terrorism as locally driven. As Pakistan adapts its proxy architecture, observers stress that exposing the ecosystem behind these narratives is now as critical as countering the violence itself.
Indian security forces have dealt a decisive blow to Pakistan-backed terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, eliminating 3 Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists in 2 separate encounters. In a precision counter-terror operation in Udhampur and Kishtwar, forces neutralized a top Pakistani commander and dismantled a long-running terror module. The operation underscores India's sustained push to disrupt cross-border terror networks operating under Pakistan's patronage.
In a high-intensity operation codenamed Operation Kia, Indian security forces targeted a terrorist hideout deep inside the Jopahar forest area of Basantgarh in Udhampur district. Acting on precise intelligence from Jammu and Kashmir Police, a joint task force launched the operation on February 3 after confirming the presence of Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists who had been operating in the area for months. Contact with the terrorist was established late on Tuesday, followed by intermittent exchanges of fire through the night. Security forces deployed sniffer dogs equipped with camera systems to pinpoint the terrorists' exact location inside a cave hideout. After preventing the terrorists from breaking contact, forces fired rocket-propelled grenades directly at the cave's entrance. 2 terrorists, including their top commander Mavi, a Pakistani national, were neutralized on the spot.
They regularly send terrorists across the border to create mayhem in India. The Indian Army has evolving doctrines where almost on a daily basis, any changes which are required are immediately incorporated with the sole aim that the Indian Army should be successful in every operation that it undertakes to protect the security of India, and this is quite clear by Operation Kia, which has been immensely successful.
Officials say the terrorists were attempting to establish a permanent base in Udhampur-Kathua belt, a region repeatedly exploited by Pakistan-based terror outfits as a fallback corridor after infiltration from across the line of control. Their presence had posed a persistent threat to local civilians and security forces, particularly after a special police officer was killed in the same area in December. The operation reinforces intelligence assessments that Pakistan's terror proxies are shifting tactics, embedding smaller, highly trained cells deeper inside Indian territory to sustain long-term operations while maintaining deniability for their handlers across the border. In a separate encounter in Kishtwar, security forces eliminated a third terrorist, further tightening the noose around active Jaish modules. The developments follow last week's major breakthrough in Kathua district, where forces neutralized senior Jaish-e-Mohammed commander Usman, alias Abu Mawia, also known as Mawia. Police identified Usman as a Pakistani national and one of the most wanted Jaish operatives active in the region since 2024. He was directly linked to at least 6 terror incidents, including attacks on civilians and security personnel, and had repeatedly evaded capture by exploiting dense terrain until now.
This clearly shows that as far as Pakistan is concerned, it is regularly training and infiltrating these terrorists into Jammu Kashmir with the sole aim of creating mayhem in India. So the killing of these two terrorists who have the origin in Pakistan yet again shows that whatever decision Pakistan had taken way back in January 72, they are continuing with it despite efforts by the international community to put a lot of pressure on Pakistan to stop its aid to terrorism. But Pakistan as a nation is steadfast on supporting terrorism in India.
The Indian Army described the operation as a calibrated, coordinated response marked by tactical precision and professionalism, stating that the area remains under continuous surveillance. India's security establishment remains resolute in dismantling Pakistan-sponsored terror infrastructure, denying terrorist groups operational space, and ensuring that cross-border terrorism is met with sustained, intelligence-driven military action.
As Pakistan marks what it calls Kashmir Solidarity Day, voices from the region under its illegal occupation tell a starkly different story. In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, residents face political repression, enforced disappearances, and denial of basic rights. Critics say the annual observance masks Islamabad's failures and human rights abuses, even as dissent continues to grow.
In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, daily life is defined by political repression, institutional neglect, and the systematic denial of basic rights. Residents have no constitutional status, no meaningful democratic representation, and no independent judiciary. Peaceful dissent is criminalized, enforced disappearances remain routine, and entire communities live under constant surveillance by Pakistan's security establishment. Despite repeated protests demanding rights, development and dignity, Islamabad continues to rule these regions through coercion rather than consent. Yet every year on February 5, Pakistan marks what it calls Kashmir Solidarity Day. Officially, Islamabad claims to stand with the people of Jammu and Kashmir. In reality, the observance has become a state-orchestrated spectacle designed to export a narrative of concern while concealing repression in the territories under its own illegal occupation.
So Pakistan, 5th of February is a fraud day. It's a day when Pakistan tries to cover up its sins, its atrocities, its bad governance in POJK and Gilgit-Baltistan, and it tries to fool its own people in Punjab especially, as if Pakistan army is the guardian of the cause of Kashmir. There is no Kashmir cause as Pakistan depicts. On the 26th of November, on the 26th of October, on the 26th of October 1947, our King Maharaja Hari Singh signed an instrument of accession with India and joined India. The whole state is part of India, not just Srinagar or Jammu. The whole state of Jammu and Kashmir annexed with was acceded to India according to that document.
While Pakistan projects itself as a defender of Kashmiri rights on international platforms, voices from Gilgit-Baltistan describe a grimly different reality. Political activists say elections are tightly controlled, leaders are jailed or restricted, and dissent is treated as a security threat. Large-scale land acquisitions, demographic manipulation and resource extraction, particularly under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, have intensified local anger while residents remain excluded from decision-making over their own future.
Today, we the people of Gilgit-Baltistan declare February the 5th as Kashmir Hypocrisy Day. When Pakistan is carrying out massacre and genocide in occupied Balochistan, when people of Tira Valley in Pashtunistan are being forced out of their homes in snow and rain, when Ali Wazir, Manzoor Pashtun, Maharang Baloch and many others are behind bars and being tortured for demanding basic rights for their people, when our leader Shabir Mayar is confined to his village in occupied Gilgit-Baltistan for peaceful activities, when Baba Jan is not even allowed to participate in upcoming election in Gilgit-Baltistan, when people of POJK in Mirpur and Muzaffarabad recently buried 13 of their loved ones killed by Punjabi police and the Rangers, when our resources are being looted in the name of CPAC and our cultures are near annihilation and extinction.
Human rights groups have repeatedly flagged Pakistan's occupied regions as legal black holes where constitutional protections do not apply and accountability mechanisms are absent. Gilgit-Baltistan remains outside Pakistan's constitutional framework, while Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir operates under heavy military oversight, leaving residents without the rights Islamabad claims to champion elsewhere. As Pakistan grapples with economic collapse, political instability and growing unrest across Baloch, Pashtun and peripheral regions, the contrast across the line of control has become increasingly stark. On the Indian side of Jammu and Kashmir, infrastructure expansion, rising tourism, elected local bodies and integration into national development programs have reshaped the region's trajectory. While challenges remain, the emphasis has shifted towards governance, connectivity and economic participation, underscoring the widening gap between development and denial, democracy and repression.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We'll be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@nin.com. This is Shivangi Mishra signing off on behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.